Hi, my name's Mark Grainger. I'm a freelance brand copywriter and I'm in Durham. 8 out of 10 years, I just bobbed along, getting job after job after job, like week after week, month after month. And then something happened a couple of years ago and everything went a bit to pot. We're all in this loop of saying, don't show any weakness, don't show any fear. But I think it's actually vital to acknowledge the hard times. You know, writing as a business or trying to be too serious. I think there's a lot to be said about letting your freak flag fly, which is difficult to say quite quickly.
How about we get started hearing how you got started being freelance?
Yeah, so I graduated and got a little part-time job that I wasn't really confident enough to spin into being freelance because I was like 21 and they wanted a blog and it was like half a week. And looking back, I would have, told myself to have a kick up the arse and make that a full-time career. But at the time I was like, no, I need in-office experience. I need proper job and all the rest of it. So I got a couple of agency gigs and the last one sort of put me properly onto copywriting, but it's completely fell apart within the year that I was there. Unrelated to my presence, I should say. Mostly. But it's just, that was one of those agencies that kind of crumbled. And over the course of 6 months, it got a bit aggy. And it was just like, oh, I really don't want to go into another agency environment like this. And it kind of accelerated my plans to go freelance by about a year or so. Luckily, another person who had been working there had gone freelance before me and picked up one of their clients, and he got in touch and said, you've been working on this for them. Would you work on this for me instead? And so that was it. That was, within about 2 months of leaving that job, I was away on work I already knew.
So after uni, you work for an agency as a writer?
So I worked for a car dealership as a writer and set up the blog and various internal comms, and then I got a PR agency who were lovely but very traditional. And I say most of their work was writing, but it was standard account exec job, and then it was a digital copywriter job with the agency that ultimately fell apart.
I see. Okay, so there's a few experiences there of working for companies. So, but this time you went for it.
Yeah, I mean, it had always been the plan to go freelance, but I was, I didn't really have the confidence, like I say, when I first started. And I knew I didn't have any connections straight out of university. So, meeting a few people and, getting to know people in different walks of life and, designers, web builders, all that type of stuff within the agency rules really helped me to go on afterwards when I finished. And a lot of those people I still keep in touch with, and some of them I still do some work with now and again. So it was definitely the right choice. It was just a very stressful end to it and start to freelancing.
And when was this?
Oh, that was 2015. Yeah, I've just passed my 10th anniversary at the end of last year. Yeah, strange.
So how did you find those first freelance clients? So somebody's come to you with some work from that agency.
Yeah. So there was that, and then I did a bit of work with one of the other people who left the agency. They went in-house, and they needed a bit of work. And yeah, I just kind of started talking to other writers and finding work that way. A lot of it's sort of been referral based. It still is, to be honest with you. I think I'm quite good at making friends with people. And so, if they've got extra work, they might want to give it to me because I'm nice and lovely. Little do they know.
Where were you meeting them?
Oh, I was very, very heavily active on Twitter for a very long time. So I am not very good at networking events. I would say I think it's just the amount of people and probably the time of the morning doesn't really match up to my energy. So a lot of it was like meeting people on Twitter or Facebook groups, or again, through the contacts that I made through the agencies, like connecting with their connections on LinkedIn and various groups and stuff like that. So a lot of it was done online more than in person, yeah.
And did you have like a niche, a specialism?
No, I've always avoided niching. I'm very much a generalist. I think it's to do with attention span. So unless it was a product or service or an industry that I absolutely loved, I would find it quite difficult to devote all my time to it. Whereas if it's an industry that I'm not that keen or not that interested in, I can quite happily do a few days a month on it. But for it to be the whole focus, the be all and everything, I don't think I'd be able to do that. What I have done over recent years is kind of niched into a service offering, which is more like the sort of human-to-human copywriting and brand and tone of voice. I think that's the other type of niche that's often overlooked. So it's not an industry niche; it's a product service niche from my side.
How did you realize that's what you wanted to niche in? And then how did you make people realize that's what you wanted to niche in?
I think because I've got a journalism background as well as PR and obviously copywriting. So I think I've been doing a lot of work in a lot of different styles. I can write quite serious. I can write technical. I can write fun. And, what's going to be the one you want to do out of that? It's going to be the fun stuff. And it was just when I got more feedback about the copy being engaging and funny and, a joy to read, that's the type of stuff that you want. And that's not to say that it's all, every fun client or engaging client has the same tone, because they don't. It's finding those angles and bringing out the best of that client is kind of what I enjoyed more, especially when you contrast that with some of the more SEO heavy writing that I've done, which is basically a lot of people just wanted some content for Google. And I found that a little bit soul destroying when it's just, it doesn't actually matter how it reads. It just has to have the right words. And I was like, I actually want people to read this and smile. You know what I mean? That's how I got into that. And I think the more you do that, the more you, to answer your second question, the more you sort of push that as your service. So my entire online LinkedIn personality now is about fun, engaging writing rather than anything else. It's casting a smaller net, but, getting the correct fish, I guess, rather than just saying, I'm a writer, I'll do anything. This is what I prefer to do, and therefore this is what I'll do best and do better for you with.
Has how you find clients changed, or is it still very much from, because basically Twitter has changed and you said...
Oh, I left Twitter.
Yes, so Twitter changed, you leave Twitter, but you still kept those relationships that you've made on there.
Yeah, I mean, there was quite a nice little group of us kind of banded together around the pandemic, created a little support group at the time, and still in touch with a lot of those people. Yeah, I mean, I am in the process of trying to adapt how I get clients, I guess I would say, because traditionally, for 8 out of 10 years, I just bobbed along, getting job after job after job, like week after week, month after month. And then something happened a couple of years ago and everything went a bit to pot. And I think a lot of copywriters and other freelancers would say that the last 2 years have been a bit more of a struggle. Yeah, so I'm kind of changing it around and I'm trying to be more, doing more outreach and such and selling myself, but it's not where I'm particularly comfortable because I'm technically a business owner, but I'm not a businessman. I'm definitely a creative and a writer. So finding that distinction and putting myself out there is not in my comfort zone whatsoever, but it's what I kind of have to do now. A lot of work does still come from referrals when it comes in, but there is more coming from that projection and outreach side of things. Yeah.
What have you been doing?
I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn. I've basically swapped Twitter for LinkedIn. And yeah, cold emails and yeah, I booked into a few networking events that aren't at 7:30 in the morning. So I'm hoping that'll do me well. Give me a time to wake up. But it's just one of those things I'm very actively figuring it out because I don't particularly know what I'm doing in this realm. It's not my strong suit at all. I would love to have somebody doing the outreach for me and going, here's some clients, but no, not as an employee. Like if I had a partner who was a business development, that would be absolutely perfection as far as I'm concerned. But alas, it's not to be.
How have you been working your cold outreach? What does that look like?
So I've been automating some LinkedIn outreach. So I don't think LinkedIn loves automation, but you can get away with it if you keep the numbers of connections down to a certain amount each day. And that looks like a sort of decision tree where it visits a profile, it likes, it engages, and if they haven't responded within a few days, it'll send a message, and you can sort of map all that out. So yeah, so like you put in a search of, say, marketing agencies London, and it will add all those people. Yeah, so if they haven't responded, it'll visit their profile. If they have responded, it'll like a post and then send the message that you write out. And yeah, so it's just a very broad approach, I guess. And also when I feel that I can get over the self-loathing of it, I will also send out a lot of cold emails because that 1% reply rate really gives you the boost.
This LinkedIn automation thing, whisper it, is that working?
I mean, it works in the sense that I think, I've had a couple of conversations off the back of it. And I think if you're trying to build your network, it works better than spending 20 minutes of your day going through scrolling people and clicking and doing it manually. I think it's something that has to be done, but it's better to do it. For me, it's better to do it automated and have it running in the background.
So you've said, I would like you to find these people. I'd like you to send a connection request. Yep. And then I would like you to like one of their posts.
Within the time frame that you set.
And it will send a message which you've rewritten, which, to be fair, I guess we all say similar things in that first initial. But what is that thing? It doesn't have to be word for word, but is it mentioning what you do? Or is it say, hey, I like what you're up to? Or
I think there's different approaches. It depends how heavy sales you want to be. I mean, mine's very much just a sort of introduction. Mine's not so much, can I send you an audit of your website? Because I think people get put off by that. I know I do. So it's more about, for me, it's about building connections for them to then see my content rather than pushing a sale.
At which point, if they reply, you then step in as a human.
Yes. Yeah. So it's just the initial message is automated. And then, if they start a conversation, it's a conversation. And you see where it goes from there.
And it becomes just a normal human interaction.
A lot of people, I think, will tell you to add so many connections on LinkedIn per day or per week, and it just takes out the manual aspect of that. So I don't think it's particularly shady. It's helping me to just find those people quicker. And I also kind of struggle with that rote manual side of connecting and linking in and spending time doing that, because to my mind there's other things that I'm better at doing that I'd rather be doing.
And have you had success with that?
A small amount, but it's network expanding again. I mean, I have such a lovely amount of copywriters and marketing people around me, but they're not people who are buying the service. They're cheerleaders, and it's great to have, and I wouldn't not have them, but it's finding more people who might want that work in the future. So people like decision makers and agencies and such like that. And it's just a way of finding more, like maximizing the people that I find, I guess, and bring to the profile.
Can you say what the tool is called?
It's called Dripify.
Dripify?
Yeah. Which does sound suspect, I know. It's the Spotify for drips.
So a couple of years ago, you find things have gone a lot quieter than they used to. Yeah. There's less word of mouth. But you've been proactive about it and started doing cold outreach. I also completely changed my branding and everything else, and repositioned myself last year. Right. Okay.
So I was operating as a limited company, and it was called Blossom Tree Copy, and I had that for about 5 or 6 years. And I just kind of came to the realization that a lot of the people who I was looking at who were, doing well or that I respected were using their own names. And that's what I'd set up to make myself look bigger when I was a bit younger, to so that people weren't taking advantage of the little sole trader mark, was kind of being a barrier now. And it was like, well, do you want them to find you, or do you find the company and then you find the person, like the one actual person who's there? Or do you just say, this is who I am? So I changed that to Mark Grainger, brand copywriter, because that's where my focus is rather than anything else. So it was just a bit more immediate. And when things were quieter, it just gave me a focus to say, I need a new website. I need, some new graphics, some branding, and this is what I'm going to focus on. So I kind of got a bit lost in being the generalist. Yeah, so it was just very much a mental exercise that's also just helped to strengthen sort of what I look like from the outside and who can see what I want to do. And that did actually work immediately. As soon as I set everything up, I got a client who wanted exactly that. Who wanted their own brand positioning sorted out and LinkedIn copy and all sorts of stuff like that. So I was quite pleased with that.
Nice. So did you, when you first went freelance, were you Mark Grainger?
Yep, just Mark Grainger. That was it.
And at some point you thought, maybe I should
I was doing work with people in my local area, and I was how old would I have been? 23, 24. And I just kind of had the impression that when I came in with a decent proposal bid price, that they were just a bit like, oh, why? Why are you charging that much? It was possibly a self-confidence thing. It was possibly that I was working with people who didn't value the work. But so I then set up the idea of a company to hide behind to a degree, quite a large degree. Yeah, and then, like I say, it just sort of felt like it stopped working. It felt like that when a couple of years ago when things went quieter, it felt like people were looking more for people to work with, like as individuals, a lot more personal branding. And I kind of got out of the habit of posting as a company, and I was posting myself, and not being as serious with what I post on LinkedIn. And it kind of felt a bit antithetical to say I do human to human personal writing, but I'm also pretending to be a company of one. So I was like, yeah, I think I need to change that and be proactive. And that was very proactive. But I enjoyed it because it was just, I think I got a bit into a rut with how I was presenting myself. I just gave me a bit of freedom. So I said, I need some new web copy. And I came up, it's notoriously difficult for copywriters to write their own web copy. We hate it. But I came up with the sort of hero text from our website for something that just made me laugh. And I thought, well, that's my North Star. And I'm going to take 50 minutes and I'm going to write the rest of this, as a one-page website. And that's what I did. And I'm just really happy with it as opposed to overthinking it. I think it's a good snapshot of who I am and what I offer.
Fantastic. So when things get quiet, you relaunched your business effectively.
I did, yeah.
You niched at that point as well then.
In terms of service, yeah.
And also then got more proactive with cold reach and even trying the in-person events.
Well, that's next week.
Oh, right. You've not.
I haven't started. I've got to the point of booking. We'll see how that goes next week.
So how about the way you work? Like, do you work from home? Do you tend to work on one big project? Like, how do you do it?
Yeah, I work from home, and I was working from home before it was cool. So I just that ahead of the curve. So I mean, I worked from home at all points. I've never coveted having an office space or anything like that. It's always been, I like my little space. So it was originally, my bedroom in my parents' house. And then when I moved in to my own place with my partner, we had a spare room. And I was like, right, that's becoming the office. It's got a nice view out the window. And it just means I could just sit and play my music loud and work. And that's how I focus best. And for short bursts as well. I'm not very good at sitting for 6, 7, 8 hours. It's very much a case of I'll do about 2 hours work in a block and then come back to it. And it's a little bit piecemeal, but it's when you sort of focus on creative work, I find it easier to give your brain a bit of a rest and come at it when you're best suited to tackling it, I'd say. And I struggle to work in coffee shops again because they've got their own tunes playing and there's people around. I go to our village coffee shop once a day, but that's because instead of having 10 minutes of peace and quiet in my day, I like to have 10 minutes of hustle and bustle to escape the house. And the dog likes it. The dog won't let me walk past because she gets cups of cream. So...
So you literally go there every day. So do you work there or do you just chill?
No, I just have a cuppa and that's it. And then I because of the way mine and my partner's schedules work, I tend to do the morning dog walk. And a lot of the time that will end up going past the cafe or the coffee roastery that's just a bit further down. It's become a bit of a routine that I'll go and have a cuppa. The dog likes it because she gets a lot of fuss or a treat. Yeah. I do think there's a slight element of having supplemented alcohol with coffee because I did give up the small amount of alcohol I was drinking a week about a year and a half ago, and my desire for coffee has shot up accordingly. But it's so close. It's like 3 minutes down the main street. I can't really avoid it. And it's just like, the dog wants to go in. I quite like a coffee. I'll get my brain going. There's lots of excuses.
Do those people know you're a writer?
I don't think so. I'm not sure. But there's a lot of people who go in every day, so I think there's a lot of people in different social situations that don't really question why somebody's got time to go in every day.
Yeah, I like that, because I always think when you become a regular like that, the staff have a nickname for you. You know what I mean?
I think they just know the dog. To be honest, I think my nickname's Winnie's dad. Just, I come into my office and focus, and it's my space to do the work. It's rather than taking the laptop out to the cafe or anything like that.
I really like that, the way you've figured out the balance that works for you.
Yeah. I think I think people have this idea sometimes, especially when people are working from home through COVID. Obviously, they had a very different set of barriers. They basically had to work 8 hours a day, and people were like, how do you cope with it? It's like, well, I don't work 8 hours a day for a start. And it's just, as I've gone on, and as I've got deeper into freelancing in my career, I've kind of just learned to lean into what works for me a lot more. And sometimes, that's doing a couple of hours on the weekend, and sometimes it's, abandoning the bit of work that you're trying to do that day because your brain is just not firing on it and coming back to it. And yeah, I'm very keen to have a work-life balance as well. So that's kind of why I don't stick to anything rigid. Other than, I very rarely work before 10 o'clock in the morning, and I very rarely work after 5, especially when it's dark nights. Like these last winter months have just been absolutely killer for focusing past 5 o'clock. I don't know what that is. But it's often in chunks, I'd say. It's like 2-hour chunks. Come back, do another 2 hours. Have a meal, do another 2 hours. It works best for me, I'd say.
You said earlier, I have a business, but I'm not a businessman. How have you dealt with the business side of it? As the years have gone on? I
mean, the first thing I ever did was get an accountant. And I think that was one of the wisest decisions I ever made. I don't think my C-grade GCSE in maths would have held up. So, yes, I mean, I am very keen to get the right people around me and to give work to the people who know how to do it. So, that's why I've always gone to specific people for branding or website building. On that side of things, I did get a contract written up, mostly to ensure payment within a set period of time, and that people can't just, dick you about so easily. Pricing's an interesting one. I tend to have a sort of idea about what's standard in the industry. And don't ask me how I have this idea. It's just sort of coalesces from the people you talk to. I think, a lot of people are quite open about it. So it's like, you work out what's about right. I kind of have a sliding scale approach. On one hand, the money I get living in Durham goes further than a freelancer in the south. So, if somebody in London charges £450 and I charge £450, it's the same for the client, but for me, that will go a lot further. So sometimes I can afford to lower my costs a little bit. I went to a talk years ago by the copywriter Andy Maslin, and I didn't agree with all of it. He did spend some time saying you should charge like £1,000 for a press release, and I was just like, I don't think that's going to fly up in Tyne-and-Wear personally. But he did sort of say, don't be too rigid and set, like, how much money would you be prepared to walk away from and not do this project, and how much money would you be prepared to take and balance your time. So I have a sort of radius, if I guess, it's of how much a job will cost. It's mostly like a starting price, and then again how much depth's required will push the price up a little bit. So it's not always a flat cost system. And sometimes if it's, say, a startup or a charity who I want to work with, and I know they don't have as much money, I can work it out to what will work for me, essentially, and still let me do the work. Because sometimes a fun job is a fun job, even if it's not as much money as you get for a less fun job. So I'm fairly flexible in that sort of regard. I think it's important to have a starting price and kind of go from there, like set an expectation.
Do you share that starting price, i.e. it's on your website, or is this a starting price that's in your head and then that radius, the circle spreads?
Some of it's better known than others, so I would say I would always go, I think I've got written down somewhere that a website starts from, say, £2,000. In terms of content, it's where it gets a bit trickier. Like, so say if somebody wants an amount of blogs or whatever, because that very much depends on how technical it is and how much they want. I mean, to be fair, I tend to operate from a day rate in my head and then say how many days this will cost and work it out that way, because it just keeps things straight for me. And there's also a slight element where if you tell people that you're doing it on a day rate, they might think they're saving a bit more than it's a project fee. If you say I'm spending 4 days on it, that kind of sounds nicer to them than saying it's this amount of money. That's what I've found anyway. But I'm a simple person, to be honest. I like to keep things straight and simple. Because I'm a lifestyle business, very much a lifestyle business, I just know how much I need to get by and what the worth of a project is. And if I can accommodate people who I want to work with, I will. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. But it means I'm never sort of charging way over the odds. I'm charging what I need to charge.
When you say lifestyle business,
for me, it means that I'm not focused on year-on-year growth. I'm not focused on building a team. I'm not focused on having an office. I'm focused on paying my mortgage and, buying my dog food and buying some shiny things for myself. And just, success for me is good feedback and good projects. It's never been about abundant financial success, because I'd probably have to do a lot more work. As we've established, I like my work-life balance. So, yeah, that's how I class as a lifestyle business, just to be able to live in the way that you want to live. And that's quite important.
You mentioned earlier about during COVID there being a collection of you copywriters who supported each other. So have you had much support and how important has that been to you over the past few years?
I always say that it's about community and not competition. I never feel like I'm competing with other writers, although sometimes we do go for the same clients. If somebody puts a post out for writers, we'll chip in. But everyone I've come across we have each other's back, and I'm always kind of keen to make people realise that I am there to support other people as well. And I don't think you could do this without a support network, without people who understand exactly what you're going through. People describe it as lonely, but for me it's more solitary because that's how I work best. But to have people who understand what you're going through on a daily basis and to say, oh, I had that, or I did that, or I had this problem as well, and to sort of, just to be heard, I guess. They don't have to even do anything, but just to be heard. And you never know where those connections will go. I mean, again, I've had work off people in those contexts and other writers passing on work and such. And it's just, it's vital to get out of your own head a bit and to be able to talk to people. And like I say, I mean, I will always tell people that I'm there if they need to talk to me as well. Even people I don't know that well, say if somebody's posting that they're struggling on LinkedIn, I do tend to send a little message and make sure that people know that they can talk, the inbox is open, because, it's only a few minutes out of my day, but just to know that it's not just your problem, especially when things have been quiet. We're all in this loop of saying how, don't show any weakness, don't show any fear. But I think it's actually vital to acknowledge the hard times and say that when there's a problem, and to then find out that it's not just you being shit. It's a wider scale issue. It's not just you who's not getting any work. It's, there's loads of people in the middle who are having issues with it. And just to know that is not necessarily reassuring, but it makes you less alone. So I think community is one of the biggest parts of being a freelancer, as I'm sure you'll agree, given your jumper.
But How do you stay in touch? Where are you having those conversations? Just in LinkedIn DMs?
No, there's WhatsApps and calls and stuff. Yeah, it just depends. I mean, there's some of it's in LinkedIn. People I know better. I've got telephone numbers. I went to Manchester for a weekend of gigs last year, and I met up with 3 people. One I'd met before, one I'd only knew off LinkedIn, and one who I had just connected with, but he was up for a chat. So I was just like, yeah, just fill your time and meet people. And yeah, you say you don't know where it's going to go, but then you start connecting on other platforms and more social, less businessy platforms and stuff. And I just think it's worth having those people to call on, and just to know that you've got this circle around you who are all in the same boat, I guess.
Yes, back with Mark's story in a moment. Just want to remind you that I have made a course for new freelancers. I don't shout about it enough. I shall do right now. Basically, it's not just based on my own experience of being a freelancer, but it's based on everybody I've spoken to for the podcast. So loads of different takes on it. It's a mixture of really short videos. In fact, there's somebody at the moment, hey Laura, who's been doing the course and watching the videos like on her commute to like her. Should I be saying that actually? I wonder. Oh, I haven't said her surname. It's okay. On her commute to her job. Or she's been watching the videos while waiting to like pick up her kids, from a club and things like that. So there's that, and then there's also some text elements to it as well, so you can read about things. It links through to other resources, through to podcast episodes that might be useful. So yeah, the course is for new freelancers. If you're new or in your first year, for example, you're thinking, I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm sure there must be a better way. Honestly, this is the course most of us wish we had when we started. You can do. Go to beingfreelance.com and you'll find all the details. It also includes 6 months free membership of the community. So you get started literally with people around you to support you. So details are at beingfreelance.com. Right, let's get back to Mark's story. What would you say has been the most challenging part of being freelance?
For me, it's the business development. I think it's just that idea of putting myself out there and being very single-mindedly focused on bringing work in, I guess. So I tend to take quite a passive approach and, just be myself on, online and stuff, and be like, please like me. If you like me, you might want to work with me. That's kind of how I've sort of done it. And the idea of being more salesy is an issue, because I am a creative who just doesn't want to work for somebody else, and that's that's as far as my business aspirations go, really.
Mark, I always do this thing where I ask for 3 facts about yourself to make 2 true, 1 a lie, and let me figure out the lie. What do you have for me?
So I once wrote a series of adverts about a talking dog who was obsessed with fitness, and it was called Joe Tricks.
Okay. Next.
My best man speech for my brother's wedding included a low-level incest joke.
Right.
And I once wrote a website where I managed to get a pun on the company name in every paragraph.
Okay. I mean,
they're all fairly likely, I will grant you.
A low-level incest joke at a wedding, I can see that happening. Joe Tricks, I mean, that just said, if this hasn't happened, I'm amazed it hasn't happened, because it's clearly Joe Wicks. Yeah. Getting a pun on a business's name in every paragraph, it would have to be a very exhaustive list. Like, what would the company name? What was the company name? I
can't tell you that. It's under NDA. It's good for wordplay, though.
I think I'm going to say the pun is the lie.
You're correct. You are correct. Yes, I did write a series of adverts for Joe Tricks, and it was very fun. So more of that sort of thing, if anybody's watching who needs some anthropomorphic animal adverts. And yes, I did squeeze an incest joke into my brother's best man speech.
Well, good. I mean,
got your trying material somewhere, haven't you?
Okay, now, Mark, if you could tell your younger self one thing about being freelance, what would that be?
It probably comes back to running a business, and I would say to be more focused on what I would call the boring processes side, and to start doing that a lot earlier. I think if I'd built something more durable in my earlier years, I wouldn't have had such a squeaky bum time over the last couple of years. So yeah, I think I would say that is to make sure you do the groundwork and not just focus on the fun stuff, because I think, play against your strengths a little bit just to build something stronger.
Is there anything in particular that you would do?
To start sort of the outreach side of things a lot quicker, because like I say, I very much just relied on word of mouth and referrals as opposed to putting myself out there. So I think it would be in terms of having more confidence and feeling less icky about the sort of selling yourself side, and just getting over that and doing it and making sure they had a stronger foundation, because that's what I'm trying to do now. And it feels like more work at 38 than it would have done 10 years ago.
But on the plus side, you have all this experience and confidence. You can also take solace in the fact that the reason those word of mouth and referrals and stuff came to you is because you were actually good at building those relationships. Now you're just building different ones, perhaps.
Yeah, I think the other side of it as well is I think I would tell myself to be more confident about who I am from the start, and not be, writing as a business or trying to be too serious. I think there's a lot to be said about letting your freak flag fly, which is difficult to say quite quickly. Harder to say than I was expecting it to be. Yeah, and being more yourself and trusting that people will resonate with that, rather than trying to flatten yourself and round the edges off, which I think I was guilty of doing when I was sort of starting off as a freelancer. And now I'm very much not guilty of doing. So definitely being yourself more earlier on, I think, is another valuable thing that I would like to have done. But, you change and you grow. You're not the same as you were 10, 20 years ago.
Mark, it's been so good talking to you. Thanks so much for coming on. Go to beingfreelance.com. There will be links through so that you can find Mark online. There'll be his website. Of course, go say hi to him on LinkedIn. And there's obviously over 300 episodes of this here podcast. It doesn't matter what they do for a living. It doesn't have to be a copywriter if you're a copywriter, or a designer if you're a designer. Just take a look through, pick one, jump in, and learn from others as they share their experience, which I thank you, Mark, for doing as well. And all the best being freelance.
Thanks, Steve. See you soon.
That's it. We're done for another one. Just to remind you, in the Being Freelance community at the moment, we are reading the Personal Branding Playbook. It's by Amelia Sordell. If you like a business book, but it's even more fun when you get to discuss it with people who've also read it, because it is, isn't it? It's a bit like when you watch a TV show and you go, oh my God, have you seen that? Yes, didn't you like? So yeah, come join us. We are discussing it as this goes out. We're discussing it on March the 10th. Might now be long in the past. But hey, if that's the case, there will be other things to join in with as well. All the details are in the community, beingfreelance.com, but it would be cool to have you for that. Right, I'm out of here. You have a great week. Being Freelance.